For the first time in years, Ethan Blackwood heard laughter coming from outside his mansion. Not from guests, not from staff, from his son. Ethan rushed to the window, and his blood ran cold. Sitting just beyond the gates was a homeless woman, tracing letters in the dirt, while his mentally challenged son watched her like she was the only person in the world. Ethan didn't know who she was, but she knew exactly who he was. "Daniel!" Ethan Blackwood shot up from his desk, papers sliding to the floor as he ran toward the tall windows overlooking the front gate of his mansion. His heart slammed against his ribs. His son never went near the gate, alone, never. Outside, the iron gates stood open, and sitting on the cold pavement just beyond them was a woman in a torn brown coat, talking to Daniel. Ethan froze. His son was seated cross-legged on the ground, sleeves dirty, hair messy, holding a small stick in his hand. The woman leaned close, tracing shapes in the dust between them. "No, sweetheart," she said softly. "Like this. One line, then another." Daniel laughed, a small, breathy sound. Ethan's chest tightened. Daniel didn't laugh, not with strangers, not with therapists, not with anyone. "What the hell is going on?" Ethan muttered, already reaching for his phone. "Security," 2 guards rushed out, but Ethan raised a hand sharply. "Stop, don't touch them." He couldn't explain why. Something about the way the woman spoke, calm, steady, like she belonged there, made him hesitate. He stepped outside. The woman looked up. Her eyes met his, and all the color drained from her face. For a split second, Ethan thought she might scream or run. Instead, her hands began to shake. She stood slowly, shielding Daniel with her body. I wasn't asking for money," she said quickly. "He came to me, I swear." Ethan stared at her, his mind racing. "Get away from my son." Daniel clutched her coat. "No," he said. The word came out crooked, strained, but clear. Ethan sucked in a sharp breath. "Daniel?" The woman looked down at him, stunned. "You said it," she whispered. "You did so good." Ethan felt the ground tilt beneath him. "How do you know my son?" he demanded, voice trembling with anger and confusion. "I don't," she said quietly. "Not really. I just talk to him." "You don't just talk to my son?" Ethan snapped. "I've paid doctors more money than you'll ever see in your life, and none of them—" She flinched, like the words struck her physically. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." She tried to step back, but Daniel tightened his grip. "She's nice," he said slowly, each word costing him effort. Ethan's throat closed. Security shifted uneasily. "Sir, should we remove her?" Ethan hesitated. His eyes never left the woman's face. Something tugged at him, a faint itch at the back of his memory. "Who are you?" he asked. She swallowed. "My name is Clara." The name hit him like a ghost, brushing past his shoulder. "I don't want your money," Clara added quickly. "I only sit here because it's warm in the afternoons. He comes out sometimes. I draw letters. That's all." Ethan looked down at the dirt. Simple letters. Crooked, childlike. Patiently repeated. No tablets, no pressure, no shouting. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Daniel laughing on the pavement, heard that single, impossible word, no. The next morning, Daniel refused to go to therapy. He stood by the gate instead, eyes scanning the street. "She'll come," he murmured. Ethan clenched his jaw. Against his better judgment, he let the gate remain unlocked. Clara returned just before noon. This time, Ethan watched from closer. He listened. "You don't have to rush," Clara told Daniel. "Your brain just takes the scenic route. That's okay." Ethan felt something twist painfully inside his chest. Days passed. Daniel spoke more. Not much, but more than ever before. And every time Ethan stepped near, Clara would stiffen, fear flickering across her face. Finally, Ethan ordered a background check. The report came back thin. No address, no employment history for years, one erased medical record, one sealed incident report. Something was wrong. On the 5th day, rain began to fall. Ethan approached her again, heart pounding. "You know me," he said flatly. Clara froze. "I can see it in your eyes," he continued. "You recognized me the first day." Her breath hitched. Slowly, she nodded. "You don't remember," she whispered, "but I remember you." Thunder cracked overhead. Ethan felt dread crawl up his spine. "From where?" Her eyes filled with tears. "From the night you ruined my life." Rain poured harder, drenching the pavement as if the sky itself was trying to wash something away. Ethan felt his pulse thundering in his ears. "You've got the wrong man," he said, but the words sounded weak even to him. Clara laughed softly, a broken sound. "That's what you said back then, too, right before you drove away?" Something inside Ethan cracked. Images he'd buried for years clawed their way to the surface. The blur of headlights, the jolt, the scream cut short by rain and panic. He staggered back a step. "That was an accident," he said hoarsely. I paid for—" "You paid to forget," Clara snapped, tears streaming down her face. "I paid with my body, my job, my family, everything." Daniel stood between them, confused, frightened. "Dad?" he whispered. Ethan dropped to his knees in the mud. "I didn't know," he said, voice breaking. "I told myself you were fine. I told myself someone helped you." Clara shook her head. No one helps when powerful men decide not to look back. Silence swallowed them. Even the rain seemed quieter. Daniel reached out, touching Ethan's shoulder. "You hurt her," he said slowly. The words hit Ethan harder than any accusation ever could. "Yes," Ethan sobbed. "I did." He expected hatred, spitting rage, but Clara only looked tired, so deeply, painfully tired. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said quietly. "When I saw your son, I just saw a child who needed patience, the kind I wish someone had given me." Ethan bowed his head. For the first time in his life, his money, his influence, his power meant nothing. "I will confess," he said. "I'll reopen the case. I'll tell the truth. I don't care what it costs me." Clara stared at him, disbelief flickering across her face. "Why?" Ethan looked at his son. Daniel was holding Clara's hand again, refusing to let go. "Because he deserves a father who isn't a coward," Ethan said, "and you deserve justice." The fallout was immediate. Headlines exploded. Share prices crashed. Friends disappeared. The world Ethan built so carefully began to crumble brick by brick. Ethan stood before cameras, his voice shaking as he admitted everything. No excuses, no lawyers spinning words. "I chose my reputation over a human life," he said, "and I was wrong." Clara received medical care at last, proper treatment for injuries that had haunted her for years, a small apartment, clean clothes, privacy. But she kept coming. Every afternoon she sat with Daniel, reading to him, tracing letters, celebrating every tiny victory like it was a miracle. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ethan watched from the doorway as Daniel looked up at Clara and spoke clearly, steadily. "Thank you for staying." Clara covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. "Always," she whispered. Ethan stepped forward, heart pounding. "Clara," he said, "I can never undo what I did, but I want to spend the rest of my life making it right." She studied him for a long moment. "Then start by being present," she said. "Not powerful, present." He nodded. Months later, the mansion felt different, quieter, warmer, real. Ethan lost billions, but gained something he'd never known how to buy. Daniel laughed more, spoke more, lived more, and Clara was no longer invisible. Sometimes late at night, Ethan would sit alone and think about how close he'd come to missing it all, how a woman he tried to erase became the one who taught his son how to speak. The irony burned and healed, because some lessons don't come from wealth. They come from finally facing the truth.